This is Mommying While Muslim, recorded live and unedited. Watch as Zeba and Uzma record their podcast, see their reactions, and find out for yourself what all the buzz is about.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Momming While Muslim. This is Uzma Joffrey.
This is Zeba Hassan, and I have to say, every time I see that cartoon, I get like so excited and happy. It's the cutest thing ever. I love it.
Isn't it silly? I still get nervous with that.
You're like, what's going to
It's like,
happen?
it's
It's when
coming.
the
coming.
police. Exactly, the police.
We need to get rid of the
coming.
police
Oh my
officer, I
God.
think.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later today. But first of all, can you give us a little bit of a background of what's going on with Rania and you guys? You have a lot on your plate this week. So, like, how was your week? How's Rania doing? How's the packing going? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a long time.
Yeah, Rania's good. We actually got her test results back after her last chemotherapy, and a lot of people are messaging me. I think they misunderstand. This is not like chemotherapy for cancer. Chemotherapy just means you're getting some kind of medicine on a regular, ongoing basis to treat a medical condition. So I don't know that this drug is used in any cancer, but it is used for immunosuppression. So the good
Got
thing
it.
is her numbers are coming down, which means it may be working. Also, because she's not had any seizures, which is awesome. So
That's
she's
great.
doing really well and actually has doubled down and is helping mommy and daddy pack like a
Oh,
beast. We all work well under pressure. So it's like
oh
these
my
next 2
God.
weeks is when we're going to move 12 years of our life 10 minutes down the, farther west than where we live now. So.
Oh my God, you are giving me heart palpitations just even thinking about
Mhm.
it. So I am wishing you all the luck in the world, my dearest.
Thank you. Tell me about your week. How's it been?
Just started our summer program. You know how intense we are. My kids are
Yeah.
literally trying to focus. They trying to make amends for the end of our our abrupt ending of the school year. I have a rising junior, so he is
Mm.
definitely prepping for SAT. He has decided, and I'm very proud to say, and I'm stating it here. He's like, I am going to Northwestern, so he wants to go back to Chi-Town. So
Inshallah.
I am very inshallah from my mouth to God's ears. And he's like, whatever I have to do to get there, we're going to do. So he finally
Ameen.
decided to narrow down some of his school choices because we really have to start figuring that out and thinking about it. The one
Mhm.
thing he specifically started, which I was super proud of, he even created his own logo and everything, because he normally does basketball camps where actually Zaid goes with him. And quite frankly, my light's falling down. He trains and does basketball clinics for younger kids. And this particular year, he's decided to donate all the proceeds to helping people on the front lines, like yourself, like my dad, like my brother. So in lieu of a fee, he is like, I'm going to donate this, and it's a small. And so I'm just kind of helping him set that up. And today is actually the first day where he's doing that. So he's has his plan,
MashaAllah.
super excited
Mm.
about it, and just kind of getting organized and trying to figure out with the unknown, what are the things we're going to have to do, the systems we have to put in place to accommodate some of the things that we lost, right? And then life
Mhm.
as we know it is going to change, whether we want to believe it or not. And
Has
how that's
changed.
going to affect, it has changed, will change, will continue to change. And what can we do to kind of adapt to the new circumstance? And I know you have a little bit of that for our soapbox today. So, do you want to let our listeners know what's our soapbox for the week, my dear?
So, our soapbox today is actually not super political. What I wanted to kind of expound on is what I've been doing this week, and that's packing. And unlike you, I do not have the gift of throwing things out. Like, if it's functional and it works, why not just keep it for 12 years or more? So, I'm literally throwing out things that are 20 plus years old
Mhm.
because why? Why do we? It's the whole one day I'm going to need it, as if one day Allah's not going to be there to provide it. And I think somehow, even though I have always thought of myself as a very faithful person, the hoarding of things and the emergency keeping of things is not necessarily faithful behavior. And we saw this, when the coronavirus first hit and there was no toilet paper, people broke Costco, right? Because there was no toilet paper. It's as if we forgot that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of his names is Ar-Razaq, the sustainer, the provider. And I held on to all these things because, oh, this was what I wore the first time I met my husband, or this is, the first picture that my son drew, or, you know, there's meaning that I gave all these things. And I found so many things. And I know that this is going to be true of anybody who has Marie Kondoed their house, that we assign meaning to so many things. And when we go back and we review it, do we even remember what that was? I found unsent letters. I don't remember who I was sending them to or what the point was. They're very well written, but I have no idea what angered me or what triggered me. And it's just jogging my memory again. And it just made me think, what do we really remember? Like, what's a memento in quotes? Like, are we really going to remember all of these things? And that's not to minimize memories, but when we put our memories in material things, um, I found myself very relieved to throw these things away. Because I attached meaning to a thing. And to me, that just felt like a form of minor idolatry, which is like the only unforgivable sin for us. So I just really thought, you know, meanings of things. What am I doing? So going a little bit political with the whole Black Lives Matter and all these people, all lives mattering. Um, what does Black Lives Matter mean to them, that they're all lives mattering? And what it means to them is by making somebody special and separating their separating them out as a special population, that means it's to the exclusion of everyone else. What do masks mean to people? What is the meaning assigned? For some reason, people are burning them because they think it's an attack, an assault on their independence. But nobody fights seatbelts. Nobody fights murder charges for somebody shooting somebody, unless it's a police officer. But yeah, and we can talk about our cartoon later. So again, going back to the meanings of things, where are they coming from and what do they do? What are the effects that they have? Meanings that we assign to material things or immaterial things, like Black Lives Matter, right? That's not a solid thing, but that's a concept. Those meanings generate thoughts in our minds. Those thoughts generate feelings, and then those feelings generate actions. And then we determine whether those are good or bad. And it all circles back. This is thought model. And I've been really mindful this past week as I'm packing up stuff and realizing, like I had emotionally invested in things, and it created the action of hoarding for me. It created anxiety for me. That was not a result I wanted. So now I'm really trying to take your advice and being okay with just throwing stuff. And if I think I may regret it later, I'm just snapping a quick picture, like,
Yeah.
the kids' art and worksheets and stuff like that. So those can be my mementos one day, but they're in the virtual space and they're not physical, so that I can obsess about them and worry about them. So I'm really happy um, that we have that right now, and I have that perspective. So I just wanted to share that as our soapbox, to be mindful of the meanings that we assign to things or to concepts. And if it makes us feel unwell or unhealthy or uneasy in any way, analyze why. Go back and figure out what we made that thing mean and check and see if it's true or not. And that's what I've been doing this week. And I would advise everyone else to do the same. And hopefully, we can clean not only our physical spaces, but also our spiritual and mental spaces in that way.
I am very excited that you're finally taking the leap and doing that. Because my thing is I do this every 6 months. I'm like, I'm done. I don't assign
Oh,
emotional things. So, and honestly, Zephyr and I just this morning we're talking about living a more mindful and more um, minimal life, and what can we
mhm.
do to minimalize the life, because I do feel in general we are a people of excess, and what can I do to kind of scrape some of that down so that I can be living my best free self. But that's our soapbox for today, and I definitely appreciate that you're getting that packing done. And if I lived closer, I'm like a packing machine, so like I would have your entire
I would
house
totally
packed
have
in
you over.
2 days. But the one thing I do want to say, which why we're airing this special episode today, it's Father's Day, and I wanted to specifically say happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, including the father of my children, my father-in-law, my brother-in-laws. I posted this morning how they are all, I'm so blessed to have my children be surrounded by amazing role models. Literally, my brother-in-law had to help with the tech at my father's house. My brothers, and it's just the things that they have so many amazing male role models. So how blessed are we that we're surrounded by such amazing men, including my dad today, who I am so
Happy
excited.
Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day, Dad. And I'm going to take a second to introduce him because we are trying to get Uncle Joffrey back online. He was there for a hot second. So I'm going to chit chat with my dad while we're trying to get Uncle Joffrey back online. And that's so funny. I realized today I've only known him as Uncle Joffrey. I didn't realize he didn't have a first name. So today I'm realizing
He's got
after
a
how
first
many
name.
years he's got a first name. But I wanted to read a lot of people don't know this, but my dad actually made a run for US Congress. He thankfully, and this is what I said to him, lost, and I know he doesn't necessarily feel that way, but I was like, it takes a certain type of person to be a politician, and the honesty that my dad has does not put him in that category. So that having been said, I do want to read something, and this kind of describes him a little bit because this was something he wrote from his heart, and I'm going to pretty much introduce him today with his own words. I came to this country seeking a better life. I studied medicine, became a doctor, and raised a multicultural family with my wonderful wife, Reba Darlene, of 43 years. Now I am blessed with children and grandchildren that live the lives I only dreamed of when I was a child. Coming from nothing and building something is amazing and is the American dream. Excuse me. I always start coughing at this point. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that they are welcome to the same opportunity to make a dream a reality. Sorry.
Aw. You coughing
So
because you want to cry? Because Zeba's our crier.
I am the crier, but I think my spit went down the wrong tube, which is not a cute look on camera. But I wanted to welcome my dad, Dr. Inam Hussain. Thank you, Dad. I finally have you on the show.
Oh, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Zeba, and I've been very proud of you and Uzma, what you are trying to do while you are still mom and professional, leading your life fullest. And I'm very, very proud that you guys are doing marvelous job and out of the box. Islam is not only some ideology which we worship, but Islam is a practice which we have to practice, and that's what you guys are doing. And I'm very proud that you give me the opportunity to be on your show.
Yay! And we get to do it on Father's Day, so that's a bonus.
Yes,
Great.
this was a really special episode. And of course, Inam Uncle, we are so happy and so touched by your support of the podcast. So thank you so much for sharing our episodes and being such an avid supporter. Next, I'm going to introduce my dad, Rajah Joffrey. He joins us today, dad to 3, who's done a bunch of things in his life, pivoting whenever it was required, to start with working in oil, to being a business owner, to working in airline management, tech support. He taught me always to aim high, dream big, capital BIG, and always help someone before they ask you for help, and to always have faith. So welcome to Mommyingwhilemuslim, Daddy.
Hi. Assalamu alaikum.
Happy Father's Day.
How are you guys doing? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We're doing fine. Alhamdulillah.
We've got your friend on, Daddy.
All right.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Okay,
These
Assalamu alaikum,
guys
Nam.
were bachelors back in the day before they became dads, and I don't even want to hear some of their stories like in the 70s and all that fun stuff. But and they were at each other's weddings and all that good stuff. That's how Uzma and I know each other. So Uncle Joffrey, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for asking me to do that. Now,
Well, you kind of inspired us
you said that
on the Mother's Day episode.
so
That was
joke.
too fun.
I'm a very camera shy.
You're not
I'm
camera
like
shy.
He's before, since he was born.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not like him. I am just like to stay in the background.
Oh, okay.
So really, really proud of you guys, what you're doing. And I hope you get someplace with this project.
Inshallah,
Inshallah.
inshallah. With your dua, we can go anywhere. But on that note, Inam Uncle, do you want to get us started a little bit about your family background and your fatherhood journey?
Thank you very much, Uzma, for giving me this opportunity. Of course, as you know, I came almost 20 years after my birth. We came for humble beginning. My parents was migrant from India. Of course, my dad was always been very instrumental for education, and he was also not a politician but activist, as I have done in the past. He was part of many of political upheaval in Pakistan, but only as an activist. So I learned quite a bit as his background was. He was the very first undergrad from his whole town. First Muslim went to college, first Muslim went to Aligarh University, and he has taken some courses in Cambridge as well. And he started part of the movement of Pakistan. And so he came and he put everyone into one plane, except my oldest uncle and auntie. They refused to come to Pakistan, but he brought 6 of his brothers and 1 of his sisters and their siblings and their kids. So they came about 35 people a week after Pakistan was in making. And of course, he has to bring everything from fresh. He was the youngest of his kids. My grandfather died before my father turned 10. They have small businesses and whatnot. So I came, and my father was always in a activist mood. He was opposition. And while I was about to embark upon coming to America, his business been slowed down because his license was taken away from other than Mr. Bhutto, who was the opposition party. But he did not allow me to stay in Pakistan, and he have arrangement, and I came to America. And of course, without mentioning my uncle, I call, because he was a cousin of my mother, who is an electronic engineer in California. He was the one who asked me to come to America, because prior to that I was working and studying German, because my dad has his business in Europe, mostly Germany and Switzerland and France. So his inclination was that I will go there, study, as well as helping in business. But when my uncle, who's Aga Khan, he lived in California, he came to visit to Pakistan after 13 years or 15 years. He was lost, and all of a sudden he showed up with his wife. He married American as well. But at that time, I took them to a major part of Karachi. And alhamdulillah, from get-go, my dad has given me opportunity to go to English medium school. So my English was better, but I always have the accent. And I kept my accent for a long time till I came to the election era. Nevertheless, so that was the time, and Auntie Barbara, may God bless her, she encouraged me to come to America. She said, "You speak well. Why you are working hard to learn German?" So I was not very keen to learn German language. So that's the way I came on January 14th, to be exact, 1974.
That's awesome. And then when did you meet my dad?
That's a good question, because that's in 1974 I came to California, and following Labor Day I came to Chicagoland area to meet my first cousin, one of the Dr. Fareed, who is a professor at Loyola University. So I was visiting them. My youngest cousin, who God bless him, he passed away. He is the one who encouraged me to move, because he was the youngest and I was younger than him. So he wants somebody to
Boss
to
around.
boss around. So, but nevertheless, he enticed me. There is a new program called nuclear medicine. I came as a electronic engineer student, but nuclear medicine or nuclear physics was my passion at that particular time throughout my college. And at that time, I look into. Matter of fact, he got me admission. There was a first program in Chicagoland area with the University of Chicago and community college called Triton, called nuclear medicine. So to cut the story short, December of 1974, I met your father with the other two friends, which is still I have, Javed and Lake Faruqi. So that was my first. And Rashid Bhai was the most professional above. He was already working as a geologist, and he was making a lot of money. And he was the one who always take us out to treat. So I still remember his kindness. I was merely a student, and I cannot afford to go to restaurant. He said, "Don't worry, let's go." And he always paid the bill. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
That's really sweet. Do you want to tell us about your daddy journey in
Yeah,
Amoko?
it was very exciting. Before becoming a daddy, I have to become husband. So
Yes.
I met a lovely lady called Darlene, and it was just coincidental. Up till now, because of our culture, we never dates and things like that. But of course, I was getting the influence of America, learning about what Americans, so my classmate always kid around, "You don't have girlfriend." So I said, "No, I don't have girlfriend." The professor was holding a party, and he said, "You have to bring your girlfriend, otherwise you are not invited." His name
Oh,
was Dr. Amble. And I said, "Okay, no problem." And I was at that time was a security guard at one of the EJ Corvette. It so happened that my wife, to be, she was in high school. She came as a Christmas help, and at that time, I just was very shy, and I asked her. She looks very beautiful, which she still is. She was wearing white clothes, and I said, "Would you mind going the party with me?" She looked at me and was strange. I said, what kind of question? I don't know you. I said, "No, it's just a party of my professor." So she agreed, and we went. And 6 days after that, I proposed her to be engaged, and God bless her. And he have talked about the religion. She have reverted back to be Muslim. This was the 6th day. And
wow.
18, 6 weeks down the road, I married her. I talk about that to my good friend Rashid. I talk about Lake, and then there was one other friend, Shahid. So they were all confused. They say, "You don't know this person, and you want to marry her." And I say, "Yes, I want to marry her, and I want to marry this holiday, which was the Christmas time." And I call my dad, and they say, "You gave me a short notice." My mom got upset, and I married on December 18th. And I have 4 friends, which is Rashid, Laik, Javed, and Sayyidullah, may God bless him, and 6 other classmates of mine. They were at my wedding. So I become a father, and not father. I'm married, and that is December '76. And Zeba came to in our life in 1978, May 31st. And prior to that, I climbed up another milestone. We bought a small townhouse in
Oh,
December of 1977, and we were preparing, and it was excitement time. To that, my dad was always supportive of me. Believe it or not, he was a Pakistani person, but he always supported me. A matter of fact, he came a trip to witness my first child. So he came all the way. If Zeba knows or not, my dad came to see my first
he
child.
told me.
And May 31st, and I was working at that time, Michael Reese, and Zeba came to my life. It was so exciting time. I was so, I cannot explain to you how happy I was.
That's so
That's
funny. So
awesome.
I'm going to ask Uncle Joffrey the same question since he's been sitting there so patiently. What was your journey to America and then your fathering journey? And taking my dad out apparently for
Oh,
treats.
no. That was he was too generous saying that. The thing was your father and other people like Laid, they are good cooks. They always
We're missing out. You're frozen.
Yeah, we have a little lag, it looks like in the video and audio right now.
been freezing them. You guys see that?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you. You can just keep talking and then let's see.
He died.
Daddy, you want to keep talking?
I have
Well,
no
while we
audio here.
yeah, no,
Well,
us
can you
either.
hear us now? Well, we could, while we're waiting for Uncle Joffrey to get pulled back up, Dad, like you talked about, you talked a little bit about your dad's story. Obviously, we were one of four, right? And so I was the oldest, and then it seems like you took the Uzma route in the sense that you had us all back to back to back, right, like speed right after each other. So, and I'd like to say, for the record, I'm loving hearing the story about mom. I actually, followed in his footsteps a little bit, and there was a little bit of tension during that time as well. But guess what? 21 years later, Dad, it worked out.
Alhamdulillah.
Mhm.
So let's remember
Yeah,
that as we're
alhamdulillah.
moving on. 21
Yes,
years later, we're still
yes,
together. We're good.
sure. Yes,
As
I have
I'm putting him on the spot right now. But I'm putting him on the spot, and now
She's
we
I
have Uncle
told you sewing
Joffrey.
her, Dad.
I'm just going to say that. And then I'm going to go to Uncle Joffrey because we were in the middle of hearing his story about how he came to America, how he got into this roommate situation with four guys, and then ended up having to foot the bill. So, Uncle Joffrey, do you want to continue your story?
Yeah, Inam told you about he came to United States.
On the
I never
stairs.
wanted to come to United States. I had a good job, very good job. As a matter of fact, people will die for that in Pakistan at that time. I was working for a foreign oil company with all those benefits and all things. So I did not want to come. But the thing is, the bad habits always benefits you. One time I went out for the smoking cigarettes to a friend's house, and he was filling out an application form for America, and he had an extra form. So he said, "Why don't you do it? It will cost you so many dollars, such a small amount. Go ahead and file. Send this application." So I did. That friend of mine never got admitted, and I got admitted in within a month.
Oh, wow.
I-20, and unfortunately, my father got that I-20. He was an educationist, and he was a very far-sighted person, a very knowledgeable person. So he told me that the Pakistan, you need to go to America because your future is not in Pakistan. Pakistan will be in a lot of trouble, so go to America. I said, why should I go? I have a good job and things like that. He said, no, you have to go. Go and try it, first of all. So I went there and we have to go through a English testing program, and somehow I passed that. So we came in here uh, January 19th. No, January 9th, 1973, I came to the United States. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear
Yeah.
you.
No?
And we're
we're just
loving this
listening. We love
story.
the history.
Something is wrong over here. It's kind of delayed. Anyway, so I came to the United States, and as I said, I do not want to. Found a job in a factory uh, doing the drill machines. Uh, you know, when they asked me, "Did you work before?" I said yes, because I used to drill for oil, not just iron. So somehow I got the job. But very shortly, within 3 months, I found my professional work, Rajah
Oh,
Engineering Company, which your father was talking about. So during that time, everybody was going to the hard times, going to school, but doing the job, whatever they can get, okay, hiding themselves from immigrations. So from the student, fortunately, I found that good job. They sponsored me, and I got my green card. And when I got my green card, I called my father that, hey, congratulations, I got my green card. He said, instead of him, my brother, my older brother, uh, answered the call, and he said, come immediately. So I got scared. I thought that maybe my father is ill. So I went back to Pakistan, and they was a trap. They wanted me to get married. I completely missed that thing. And I went there because I got the green card. And, we have a friend, Inam will know, remember him, Shahid. That guy was, he always is standing on his toes to send people to Pakistan. So he got me a ticket and lots of things, this thing and that thing. So I went, uh, my overcoat weighs about 35 pounds.
oh my God.
Well, Chicago winter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're frozen, but the one thing I wanted to say while we're trying to get him back online is I detect a little bit of a family theme from your story from your mom on our Mother's Day special, how she got the job at the bank and she was like, she just figured it out too. She was kind of like, I've never done this.
Mm-hmm.
She said I did. She passed the lie detector test. So there seems to be like a similar like
Yeah.
undercurrent between the two
When
of them.
God's
I
on your
love that.
side. Yeah.
Exactly. What do you do? It was meant to be.
Yeah.
It looks like
What
he's
I'm
having a little
hearing
bit of
from both of y'all's stories is the influence of fathers on y'all's lives too, and the decisions that you guys made, and in shaping your identities. So that's kind of the meat of what we wanted to talk about today. So while my dad's getting his tech situation figured out, Uncle, do you want to talk to us about how some of the challenges and how you face them in developing your children's identities in America?
Oh,
Very good question. From get-go, it was initially, despite the fact that, I found American wife, but from the onset, the group we hang out was me, Rashid, and Laik, and all that. We tried to keep our identity intact. We wanted to be Muslim first and American second, to be honest with you. And for that reason, we embark upon many even way back before our marriages. We went 1975 first ISNA convention in Bloomington, Indiana. And at that time, only 350 people showed up for ISNA convention. So we were trying to be attached to our Islamic identity. We want to learn, of course, back home in Indo-Pakistan. Mostly I came from Pakistan. we don't have to face that problem, because that is by default. We are Muslim, and we picked up on Juma, and we picked up on our aunt and uncles who tell you and mind you what are the mannerism, how the Islamic etiquettes are. Here we have to struggle to become a Muslim, to be honest with you. So from get-go, we become like that. And at that early stages, if my wife and all that, we were very, I'm trying to be, create my Islamic identity. So we learned, we used to go on weekend to local Islamic. At that time, only two centers were there called MCC. So we were very avid participant, where only 20 or 25 people used to come. And my wife also, may God bless her, she was an avid learner, and she picked up the basic of Islam from the get-go. And that's what we transformed. And from the early stages of our lives, we are attached with a Muslim mosque. And then there are three families were together, me, Uncle Laik, and Rashid. Laik and I live very close. In fact, we are, he was the instrumental to created he was the instrumental to make me in part of the uh, uh, same neighborhood. So we bought the townhouse next to him. Rashid and Bobby they used to live in Chicago downtown area. So they were, but one weekend we all meet, and we tried. And during that time, we one after the other, either me, Rashid, I think Lake was first as a father, and then I think me, and then Rashid, something like that. So we were coming, and then we trying to arrange how we will have our Islamic identity transfer. From the get-go, I was given the opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia, but up till then, we were holding our Ramadan together. We are holding our Salat Rawi together. So we were trying to create. I'm not saying that we were all 100% as learned scholars as young people are now. They are more dedicated. But from the very beginning, once we have identified ourselves as a family, then we were. And even without family, our bachelor's life was very simple. We only hang out together as a weekend, as Jaffrey was trying to allude, that Lake was very good cook, and he was making food. So that's why Jaffrey used to come. And then when we don't cook, we go out, either have, treat in the restaurant, or there was a movie, Indian movie, which is we were deprived in Pakistan because our relationship was never been same. So Indian movies we used to like. So that was our indulgence of other than eating together. That's our. But we become married and we have family very early. We try to learn from our local imams and so forth. Did I answer your question? I can elaborate.
Absolutely.
Yes, you 100% did. But we were in the middle of the story before Uncle Jaffrey left, and he was talking about how he got duped apparently into going back to Pakistan, and that's where he met the beautiful Auntie Annie. So I have to say, like, you lucked out there, Uncle Jaffrey, because if you were going to get duped to marry somebody, she would be the person you'd want to get duped to marrying. I'll tell you that right now.
He's like, it's Father's Day. It's my day. Let me tell my side.
let him give the story, but otherwise I'll fill you in a couple of,
anecdotes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daddy. You got duped at the airport. Oh, we can't hear you. Your audio is out, Daddy.
That's such a bummer.
I know his microphone's not working. Hold on. I think Joe will get him, but as the story goes, I think my grandfather met him at the airport, and then he realized, oh, Dad's not sick, and then he got to get married like Inam Uncle in 9 days, based on a picture.
Oh.
You know, so at least an uncle got to meet Darlene Auntie. My dad didn't get to meet my mom until the wedding day. So,
Well,
Daddy, you
that
want to
used to
try
happen
testing
back
your
in the
audio?
day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You met on the wedding day. Daddy?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Now
now
we
we got
can.
you.
Yay.
Yeah, I do not know why it is freezing on me.
Mm-hmm. It's the internet. It's your bandwidth. Yeah, that's okay.
No, the internet is very good at this house. You know, it's a very fast speed, but somehow it's not my day to day. Anyway,
Yeah, that's okay.
we got married in, as Uzma was just saying, in 9 days, and I end up staying more than 9 days over there. It's gone again.
No,
No,
we
we
have
can
you. We
hear
can hear
you.
you. We
We're
can hear you.
hearing. Keep on talking.
Okay. So anyhow, when she came to Pakistan, the day she came to Pakistan, this guy did not waited for me and did not tell me, and he was having a party. That was his engagement day.
Ooh.
Oh, Inam Uncle's party in Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago,
Oh,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Inam uncle was getting engaged, and I just walked into our favorite store, Gateway to India restaurant, and all of my friends were sitting over there, and of course, my wife was very embarrassed because she was not properly dressed or things like that.
Oh, she did mention that.
And anyway, that's how we began our life. Okay,
Aw.
jolly. Uh, One thing I'll tell you, the friendship we developed at that time, I'm so proud, so happy that it is still there. Same thing,
Thank you.
same.
And now it's a generation later and it's still there. Like
There-
Ziba
That's,
and I are friends.
that's great. That's a great news.
Friends now. Our children are friends, and they are keeping it going. And that is the thing, which tells me that we achieved something.
That's actually a really
Through
good
hard
point, right? Because you guys started something and you took root. You guys were the original immigrant class. I think it was after the 1960s. Uzma knows all the history, so I'm going to let her tell that for another day because I just learned from her. But because of us, a lot of the civil rights movement, that immigrant class got to come here to America, and you guys were part of that first generation of immigrant class coming to America. And as a result of that, you guys literally built a lot of these infrastructures from the ground up. Like you said, you were maybe 9, 20, 10, 15 brothers coming together for Jummah. And now, like for us specifically in Chicago, is one of the epicenters for the Muslim community, and has grown in such leaps and bounds. Like I joke with my kids, I'm like, I had an actual Sunday school where my poor children do not. Sadly, we're still working on that here in the DMV area because we don't live as close as we'd like to Adams. But that you guys were able to start something. Our generation is continuing, and and our hopes is your grandchildren, by God's grace, you guys have a beautiful brood of grandchildren that are doing the next thing and taking what you guys started and not knowing and literally, like, how do you feel about that? Like, that's such an amazing thing, because I know Rayan now is he's 12. Zachariah will be 17 in August. Unfortunately, my grandfather, my dad started talking about my grandfather, and he was sick when I was pregnant with Zachariah. And he literally was the first person I told 2 days, I think it was 2 days before he was born, right, Dad? That Dadaba actually passed away. But that weekend before, he was like, I want to know what his name is. And I'll cry talking about it. And we had that conversation. And two days later, he was born. So he got to see that generation be like present, because Zaki was the first of our generation. He gave me the whole history of the name, why it's important to carry on the Muslim identity. And I hope and pray that we've done what we can to pass that along. Okay, Joe, you can get off of my face now and go and go to Dad, because he literally, I went into labor actually the day of the funeral. I still remember that. Zachariah was almost 4 weeks early, and he came 48 hours after, literally to the hour after my grandfather passed away.
May Allah reward him and grant him for giving such a beautiful name to your son, and for, I feel so jealous because you got to meet your grandfather
Yeah.
and I never had that
Yeah.
opportunity because my
See,
grandfather
that's a
lived and died without ever having met us. But he loved us, from what my dad tells me. And then, I think it's so poignant you pointing out that these dads overseas on the other side of the world had such foresight to send their sons and not knowing what's waiting for them, but trusting that their sons would carry on their Muslim identity, their cultural identities. And speaking to that, I thought I would ask my dad what his philosophy was in shaping our identities and how he approached that.
Yeah, first of all, let me tell Zeba, when you're crying, tells me that we did something right. And that's that's what it is. Like my father, when Uzma was born, I just called her. I was shaking like a leaf in the big storm. And I was so scared that I'm not qualified to bring a daughter in this country. And, and I wanted to go back. So I called him and he said, don't haste anything. Don't make a hasty decision. I will write to you and we will talk about it. So he wrote me a letter and he said that, hey, you are one of the luckiest person. There are millions of people around the world wants to go to the United States and you got a chance and you went there, you got a good job, you got a green card, you came and you married into a good family, and now think about it that why it happened to you. According to him, he said that the God has selected me to bring my family over here. And that's what happened with both of us. Inan's whole family came over here, all of my family came over here. And then he said that when this daughter, you have to bring her up in a way that when she's walking on the street, people should look at her and say that there goes the Muslim, and she is a good person. And we, all our friends got together and we made a goal. We thought, we decided that, hey, we should not we should be proud of our children, but God should be proud of us. And that's what we worked on. And that's what we faced a lot of problems. You see, for every generation, the problems will be there. There will be different problems. But problems will be there, challenges will be there. It is, we try to face it to the best of our ability. And we try to give you the best we can. Not do, not did everything as you wanted or somebody else did for their children, but we did the best we can. That's all we could have done. It is not that we gave you everything, no, but we gave you, I tried to give my children confidence, number one, faith, number two, and I tried to give them right direction towards Allah's path, what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has done. I tried to do that. I devoted my life after Uzma was born. She was the biggest challenge I ever faced in my life. And
Yes, that is true.
you know, you wouldn't believe it. Half of Houston became our friend because of Uzma. She used to run. 2 years old or less than 2 years old, she runs so fast with her both legs that
I had
everybody,
bow legs, yeah.
Oh.
That's everything I had them to. Anyway, but she was so cute running around and runs so fast that I couldn't follow her. But you know, it was a gift, and we tried to accept it. And I did. I followed my father's instructions, what to do and how to do it. And Alhamdulillah, Uzma just said that my father, of course, physically he did not see them, but when we sent them the pictures, he put them on his suitcase cover. And he
Oh.
used to show other grandchildren that, hey, this is your brother and sister living in the United States. You need to remember them. Don't forget them. And all those things.
Oh.
So it was so bad of me that I could not go before his death to Pakistan. The reason for that is I was putting all my efforts to bring these children as good Muslims. Alhamdulillah, Uzma has his, she always made us proud. Every time we go to her school, we were known in Fort Bend County Independent School District by names because of this girl.
Oh.
Up to
I'm
the
actually I'm I'm
assistant.
actually not surprised,
assist,
right? Because she's always been one to kind of pave her own way, which is why I loved still being able to like stay in contact with her because she was always just one of these people that um did what she needed to do. Like I know Isma's going to kind of explain some of these pictures coming up right
yeah,
Oh,
now.
this is
graduation. I remember at this particular
her.
graduation where my
Yeah,
dad, like when he hugged me, he was like, always follow your dreams. So that's something that I learned from him. And even though America wasn't necessarily one of his dreams, raising us right in this country, meaning as faithful people, as spiritual practicing people, that was the dream that he pursued, as well as making sure that I always became a doctor.
Oh.
So that's my dad and me. That's all of his hair, guys. He had so much hair.
Woo! Love that.
I don't know how old I am in that picture. And that is
Oh.
great. That's my favorite picture of my dad and me, even though as a doctor, like sleeping with the baby on her belly with a cigarette in the bed is not good. But
I didn't
alhamdulillah,
even
my dad
think of
has since quit
cigarettes.
smoking. So
You're right.
those are your typical 70s velour blankets that are very flammable. But yeah, this is my favorite picture of my dad and me.
Oh, I
That's a
love that.
cutie.
Apparently, these same aunties that married essentially would tell me later, Uncle, I think it was Uncle Lakes, what, like they're like, thank God you became attractive as an adult because you were a very unattractive baby. And I mean, they would just say that to me like very openly, like you were an ugly child. We were all very worried about you. And I'm like, thank you for making me feel so
No,
good about myself.
that
And
was Auntie Menas.
Auntie Minaj, that's right.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, and I would go to parties. You're like, thank God you're pretty now because you weren't when you were. I'm like, thank you for making me feel so good about myself. No, no, and the roles that dads play obviously are super important. I mean, honestly, we can probably have like 50 different episodes about where they've come from, where we've been. And I'll probably cry through all of them, thanks to Joe putting the
Yeah.
the, the, the camera right on me, because it is a very emotional thing. And we are blessed in the sense that you guys did the best that you can, so you should hear it from us. We appreciate that you do, and then we're able to take some of those lessons learned and apply it to our kids with the hopes that they're going to do great things. You've paved the way. We're putting down the asphalt, and our kids are actually going to drive, right? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how these generational things work. So we can, like I said, talk about this all day. The fact that you were able to spend Father's Day with us, even, we're literally across 3 different time zones right now. I appreciate it. And inshallah, one day I'm hopeful that we're going to have another reunion, and then all of our kids can meet each other. Like that, I think will come a full circle family moment, inshallah, once COVID is finally over. But that's a whole nother
Inshallah.
Yeah.
inshallah.
You that all of the challenges that you overcame were not for nothing, and we're really like we say to people, and we don't say to y'all enough, I know, and I think it's okay for me to speak on behalf of Zeva on this too, that we owe everything we have to the foundation that you guys laid for us, and good, bad, or otherwise, whatever happened, alhamdulillah, made us who we are and made us the strong Muslims that we are today, able to do the things we're doing today. So thank you so much for your amazing examples and your love and patience for us. And I know I was your biggest challenge, Daddy, so I'm sorry. But I think it shaped your character too. So
What I mean by biggest challenge is that
the guinea pig.
you are my firstborn.
Yeah.
You're a
Yeah.
girl. So I had to myself to you. I did that. I used to have 200 music cassettes with me. Every one of us is busy about that. And I have not used those cassettes to this day. They were just
Well, yeah, because they're
gone.
obsolete now. Weren't they 8 tracks?
Are they even playing now?
You guys are doing a great job. May Allah
Thank you.
help you in every field you are thinking about.
Amen.
Inshallah.
One thing I will tell you, which you need to remember in your life, if you do the things to attract people or get attention, that's all right too. But if you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would not believe that how successful you will be. Whatever you do, I see both of you in some position. I was talking to Uzma about it, that you need to go beyond this thing. Go, your dream should be a little bit higher from now on.
Inshallah.
And
Inshallah.
we are here. Your father is Zeba, your father is a born politician.
Yes,
I
we
am.
know. Trust me, we understand. That's a sore topic in our household. We're going to leave that for another day. But politicians take a certain type. I appreciate what you're saying, Uncle, and I know where you're going to go. Politicians take a certain type of personality type, and I think my dad has his passion for activism definitely, has for me gone to my children, who on their own take up things that they feel passionate about and want to fight for. But a politician specifically, I've shared this with my dad during our therapy sessions, that a politician takes a whole certain type of personality type, which my dad is too honest to be that person, to be blunt with you, and to be able to cater and change who you are for a particular set or point of view. I'm not sure he can do, quite frankly, I'm not sure I can do, and I don't necessarily feel like I would wish that onto somebody else. But that's my soapbox for today. And I'm going to speaking of soapboxes, have to go support my son, who's starting his first project for Charity Dad. Like I sent you guys that link. And he's asking for me to quickly come upstairs so that he can drive me there himself. And wondering how long I'm going to take, as he's literally texting me every 2 minutes, because I'm supposed to be upstairs 5 minutes ago. But, I like I said, I would love to continue this conversation offline someday. And be able to meet you guys in person. And I love both of you guys for everything that you guys have done. And thank you for allowing Uzma and I to have the relationship that we have, that we can kind of carry on a little bit of what you guys have started.
Thank you very much.
Happy Father's Day to both of you.
I appreciate it. Good to see you. We'll talk to you, Jaffrey.
Assalamu alaikum. Happy
All right,
Father's Day.
assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.
May Allah help you.